Okay, do have time. We have some issues with our building. We had a old on the first floor a bathroom where we had a pipe break and it's flooded a little bit down there, so they're dealing with that now, and that's been part of my morning. But we're gonna push through. We're gonna try to get day 6 recorded here. I think it'll be pretty short, and just to get it up so that I'm caught up. I delivered day 7 today. Yeah, so let's go ahead and move on. So, quick review. I know I just covered this in a video that went up just a little bit time ago, not very much longer ago. But what is a session? Right, session is the thing essentially that creates state between between the client and the server, right? Remembering that HTTP is stateless, you have to remember that we need to send state back in some way. And in most cases, we do that via a session. So where does identity live? Well, identity lives with the user. However, in the case for what we care about here, we're going to ensure that, what matters is that what we care about, or what the application cares about is identity, isn't actually identity. What the application cares about is whether you have the token, and I used a little orange thing here last time, whether you have the token that says that you are the user you say you are. And in the case is, the identity still is with the user. However, the proof that you've logged in is present in that session token. And then why did copying the session value work, right? And it goes down to what I literally just said, which is the server doesn't authenticate every single request. The server assumes that if you've authenticated and gotten the session cookie with the session state, that if you can give that token or that session cookie back, that you are that user, right? Like it equates, in this case, the identity to the session cookie, and that is the state that it uses to do that. So why do tools matter, right? Like in particular here, I've gone out of my way to demonstrate that all of these things can be done without tooling, right? You can do it with just a browser. You can do it just telnet if you want to get technical enough. However, right, when we start doing this stuff at scale and we start messing with it, what we'll find is that the developer tools in the browser, they're very manual, right? It's not really possible to automate them without some weird JavaScript hackery that we probably don't want to do. They're error prone. When I went through this exercise with the kids in class last week, it took several attempts to get it right in many cases, right? Copying and pasting cookie values around is error prone. You log out, you end up in the wrong browser window with the wrong dev tools, and now you're copying the wrong cookie values, right? It's really messy, especially, right, like unless you're running multiple browsers or you're using private browser windows for everything, those cookies get commingled, right? It's just not great. It's not easy to solve. It's hard to repeat. Right, like resending a request. While I believe in modern dev tools is possible, it's not easy to do at scale, right? And that goes to point 4 there, which is it's pretty hard to fail or to scale. Right, it's pretty hard if the students have a challenge, and one of the challenges they use this predictable state, and they right like it will require a non-zero number of attempts to crack it. That would take hours in dev tools, right? But doing it via something like either Python or even using something like burp suite will make that much quicker, right? So today our goal is to teach you some of that tooling, but in the end we're doing the same thing here, and we're talking about the exact same outcomes. So talk for a couple minutes about what Kali Linux is, right? So I've asked the students, and if you're following along, you also to stand up an instance of Kali Linux. So I want to cover for a second here what Kali is and is not. Kali is not a secret hacksaw tool. While it is used by a large number of red teamers and threat actors, in the end, Kali is a Linux distribution that just happens to have repositories enabled that can make it easy to install security tooling, very securely tooling, very quickly and easily. Right, it is a Linux distribution based on Debian or Ubuntu. I actually can't remember which the upstream is, but either one of them are Debian based. That that is designed for security researchers. Right, it's designed for testing and analysis. And I see my typo on that slide there now. Right, like but it's a lab environment, right? It's not a magic hacking machine, right? This isn't something that, like on the movies where you just open the thing and then you're smashing on the keyboard and pretty soon you're in, or you can be like NCIS where you get two people typing on the keyboard, right? It doesn't work that way. Right? This is a tool. No different than this is a tool, right? This knife here, or right, a screwdriver is a tool, right? Like they are an instrument to get a job done. They don't magically do the job for you. They aren't Claudebot. But I digress. So we chose to do this via Kali. Let me see. Okay, cool. We chose to do this via Kali because getting some of these tools installed on a Windows or Mac OS can be hard, right? Like in this class, I think we'll largely use Burp Suite, but we might end up using some other tools too. We'll definitely use SQL Map, right? And having a centralized spot with that tooling makes their jobs easier for two reasons. One, as somebody that frequently does real CTFs, I have polluted my machine with tools that I use to try to solve challenges. It's annoying. They need to be kept up to date because they create security footprint, right? And they just generally create things that I don't want to have to deal with day to day. Right. And two, it gives us a single spot, right? Like I am doing security research. I am now in my Kali world, right? Like, whereas maybe when I'm writing the report, I leave the Kali world and I share some artifacts back and forth, right? Like, but it gives us a convenient container for us to be able to do that with. So what session hijacking tools are we going to use here? Well, pretty much everything we're going to use is Burp Suite. As I show it here shortly, I have the professional version of it because I actually use it occasionally for real engagements, but the students are all mostly using Community Edition, right? We're going to use Interceptor inside of Burp Suite to intercept traffic. We're going to use Repeater to push traffic back, and then we might, at some point or another, play with Intruder, right, which can do some sort of automated testing and maybe find some stuff. If we found ourselves having to do network capture, we'd probably use Wireshark. However, we're probably not going to use Wireshark here, but it is worth noting that if you happen to be in an open area with open Wi-Fi and people are dumb enough to not be using HTTPS traffic, you could definitely use Wireshark to capture session tokens and replay them. I believe there was an attack called, was it Electric Sheep? It had been Fire Sheep. Yeah, it was Fire Sheep. Right, so Fire Sheep was an extension for Firefox, used with the packet sniffer to basically automatically steal session cookies. You could use it back in the day when less things had HTTPS. You could just run it, and you could you could steal session cookies and replay them. Right, like these days, and I alluded to the last video. These days, this isn't a very viable attack path. Honestly, right? Like almost everything uses HTTPS or TLS. Your browser actually warns you if it's not, right? So stealing session cookies isn't something that we can just typically do by sniffing. There are some exceptions to that. Like one of the things that Burp Suite does is configure the proxy to trust the cert, right? So like it does basically a man in the middle attack via proxy. If I control the network edge device, I can do that, assuming I can get you to trust the certificate. This is actually one of the reasons that I'm pretty negative against SSL inspection, because most organizations that do it trust the private certificate that is used for the sniffing machine, right? Like, and a side effect of that is if I compromise that machine or I compromise a certificate, I now have a certificate that can man in the middle trustedly, right? So like it requires a level of discipline I think most organizations aren't properly able to give it, so generally I don't recommend it as a result. But why are we going to use Burp Suite? Well, it is an easy tool to give us visibility into all the requests the web server is making, right? Like it allows us to quickly and easily modify in-flight repeat requests, right? Easily do client replay, and it lets us look at history and compare our output. And you'll see that a little bit more as I cover it, right? Like, and we're gonna get into that here in a moment. So a high-level workflow of what we end up doing inside of Burp Suite, right, is the Burp browser sends a request, the Burp proxy intercepts it. It can optionally pause there and let you modify it in flight, If you're inspecting or modifying, then you have to basically approve it after you've made any modifications or you've looked at whatever you want to see, and then the request continues. The same thing happens with response. Response comes in. If we're intercepting, we pause. You can view it. You can modify the response in flight, and then you can move it onto the browser. So it puts us fully in the middle of it. In the case here, we're going to be using the built-in burp browser, right? But you can configure external browsers to talk to it. But just know that, like, if you're hitting an HTTPS site, you're going to get HTTPS warnings unless you trust the certificate. So in class here, I asked the students to, open Burp Suite and start running now. Start working through it. If you're following along at home, you are welcome to do the same thing. But in a second here, as soon as I take a look at my teacher notes to see what other data that I wish to, or what the next slide looks like, I will go to doing that. Nope, that's today. I'm like, wait a second, that doesn't look right. Wrong slide deck. Cool, okay. Yeah, so we're just gonna pop over. I'm gonna press this button right here, which should take me to our burp suite. And again, this is Kali Linux, right? If you've used a Windows box, like, just know that this little Kali logo up here is the same as your start menu, right? It's at the top instead of the bottom, so we're apparently in the upside down. I've got pretty much all of the applications installed here, right? But we have applications for reconnaissance, resources, initial access, right? Like all of these things that we can do here, right? If you want to do some discovery, like, you want to do Active Directory discovery, look at all our tools. We can use Bloodhound, we can use Sharphound, we can use Azure Hound. There's all these tools that we can use to look things over. Forensics tools, right? Like, so this is it is a tool set here purposely built for security researchers. I have started Burp Suite. I'm using Burp Suite Professional, as I previously noted. This is an old version of it. I actually very, 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 very much need to upgrade, and I will probably do that as soon as this class is done. But I don't frequently use this tool, so it's just in need of needing updated. The version on my laptop, which I use more frequently, is actually up to date or more up to date, but I'm on my desktop here. So you can see we have a number of tabs here, right? We have a dashboard, target, right? Target, I'll show that here in a second, right? Proxy, right? I can see intercept is off. Here is where I can open my browser, but I already have it open. It's right there, right? Intruder, right? This is where we can do some automated testing. Repeater, right? This is where we can repeat things. And then there's all these things, of which the open source version doesn't have all of them. It has some subset of them. I think it might have sequencer, but it definitely doesn't have all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and open the burp browser here, right? And this is pre-configured. So I can go to the website we've been using here in our class, right? Which is dvwa.kd8bfn.org. I'm going to switch browser windows here while I enter my email address because I'm using my Gmail account. Guess it doesn't really matter. It's not super hard to find, but at least have a little option here, or OPSEC here. Come on. Oh, yeah, that won't work. I'm like, why can't I cut and paste? I don't have the extension installed. I need to be able to do that. Cool. So I'm signed in now. And we'll go back here. Oh no, sadness. It's cranky. It's fine. I'll wait. I'll get another one. I've seen this before, or if you hit enter, you have to hit sign in. Cool. So we're at our login page. Now, of note here, right, they can see if I go to target and then I go to, or I'll go to proxy actually, and we'll go to HTTP history. You can see all the requests that were made here, right? I did a get to that. I got 3 or 2 redirected here, right? Where you can see we got a location. It should be down here somewhere, right? It sent me to this Cloudflare Access page because I'm hiding this stuff behind Cloudflare Access. Right, I did log back in, right, which redirected me back. So now I get the login page, right? Like, so some things here of note. Security is set to impossible. I don't know why I keep setting itself up to impossible. I don't know if that's stored on a per session basis. But of note here, we've got a couple session IDs. I don't know why I have two. That's really interesting. I don't know what the deal is there, but I have two session IDs. And then you can see that if I go all the way over here, those are just headers. But it is possible to see the full request. I think somewhere there's a way to see it, but it doesn't matter. In this case here, we're really only looking at requests. So you can see I hit the login page, right? It redirected me to the login page with this 302 redirect to the login page. Oh, here's our content, right? Like, right, we can see that we got, a login page here. I'm going to go ahead and go back to here and I'm going to log in. We can go back to our burp. And if we go down to this new request, and like, it is interesting that this thing seems to be, this RUM, it seems to be sending data to Cloudflare. I thought that was kind of interesting. So, we're going to do our post to login. You can actually see here, if I look at my raw request, you can see that I sent, here's my request, right? Like, so I sent the cookies. These are Cloudflare cookies. You can see my session ID there. That 7D blah, blah, blah is a session ID. You can actually see down here that I send my username Pablo, password is let me in, right? Like, I've got a CSRF user token, and then my login action is login. That gives me a 302 found because I properly authenticated. That's going to send me back to index.php, and you can see here that we're logged in, right? Like, I'm going to go ahead. Well, I can't, this user can't, well, maybe it can. Yeah, it can. We're going to set this back down to low. Cool. So we set the security level to low. If we go back over here, we can see that, several things went into that. We did a post to security with security equals low, submit user token, blah, blah, blah. So we have it there. Right. And so going back to our slides, we've now confirmed that we have intercepted data, right? So when we log in, we can see the session cookies. And if we look here, we can see on the cookie that it sets us, we can see the flags, right? We can see the expiration, we can see the max age, we can see the path, but there are no security flags on this, right? Like this one here has, well, that one's security low. Let's see some of the other cookies that we've got set here. Well, there aren't any. If we go back up here, though, to the Cloudflare stuff where we are actually setting cookies, you should be able to see that we set a session ID, right? Like, and this one has two flags. It's got secure, which means we're only going to give this cookie back to you over HTTPS, and it's got HTTP only, which means we cannot read it from a JavaScript session. So we start talking about cross-site scripting, this will be a lot more relevant, right? But right now, like, I just wanted to observe that we could see those things. So if we log back out and log back in, the question is, does the session ID change? So we're going to go back over here and we're going to do that. Going back to our browser. Right, so notice our session ID. I'm going to go down here to the index, wherever we loaded index, right here. Our session ID ends in our request, or it starts with cookie, right there, AA37. So go back over here to our browser. We're going to log out. Then we're going to log back in. And we're going to go to our new index. AA37. So of note here, it is worth noting that our session ID did not change when we logged back in. This is only because our session is set to low, right? And it tends to reuse session IDs with that. It does invalidate it on the back end. So once we log out, we actually cannot replay the session. It doesn't get removed from the database, but it doesn't get removed from the current state, right? Or at least it's probably the case that the backend session just flags that we've logged out, right? When we log back in, the session ID changes. That's actually an anti-pattern. We shouldn't be doing that. But it is worth noting that, that was the case there. I must have hit the wrong button. We want this one. There we go. Yeah, you see me from above there. You can see it right there, right? The session ID is the same. That is what I get for hiding the window where I was looking at. So, if we log in and get a session cookie and play it elsewhere, right? Like, so I'm gonna go ahead and you can see here that we're logged in as Pablo. I'm gonna reload the page and you can see that we're still logged in as Pablo. So I'm gonna open Firefox here. I'm going to do it this way first, and then I'm going to show you another way. And the other way, let me pull back away from there for a second. You can see how we can do this using tools entirely inside of Burp Suite. But I did want to show a couple of things here real quick. So, boom. Okay, cool. So here we're going to log in as admin. Right, and so you can see on this Firefox browser, we're now logged in as admin. You can see down here. So if I go to our DevTools and I go to storage, I can grab the cookies and I can just grab my PHP session ID here. Notice this one starts with 917D. Okay, so now I'm going to go back over here to Burp Suite. Oops, get out of there. We'll go over here to Burp Suite and I'm going to go to intercept and I'm going to turn intercept on. So now we're stopping sessions that go through, right? I'm going to reload this page. Notice it doesn't load. It doesn't load because it's stuck over here. So here's our request. You can see it in flight. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go down here to our session ID. I'm going to back that out and I am going to paste the other one in. So this is a session ID, the 917D is a session ID that I took from the other one. So then I'm going to go ahead and forward and I'm going to turn intercept back off because I don't really care now. If I go to this browser window, we can now see that we're logged in as admin. Right, so we have successfully stolen the session cookie from our Firefox window and replayed it inside of Burp Suite by modifying the request inline. So I'll come back here to it a second. I'll show you how to do it in another way. But what does this give us, right? This puts us in a situation where the Burp Suite stuff is very repeatable, right? Like we can do it over and over again. We can send things to repeater, which I'm going to show in a second, right? Like it's very structured in the way it shows us the data. And it's controlled, right? It's a lot easier once you get used to it. It's a lot easier to use, right? It's a lot harder to mess it up once you get through the little bit of a learning curve that it has associated with it. And it's easier to work on a lot of requests, right? Like I can do things in bulk. I don't have to do them one at a time. So I'm going to go back to my Burp Suite here and I will show you other things we can do, right? So things of note here, let me log out and let me log back in as Pablo. What if I didn't want to have to go capture that request? What if I had a session cookie from elsewhere? Well, one of the things I can do if I go to my HTTP history here for this get on index, I can right click that and I can go send that to repeater. And if I go to this repeater tab over here, I can see this request and literally I have a button that I can hit send over and over again. I have some ability to do some, I believe, automations there. I will get into that later. But if I send it again, we can see the response here. I get the 200 there, right? If we scroll down to the bottom of it, we should see that somewhere we're logged in as Pablo, right? But what happens if I just go here and just paste in our 917 and then send it again? So we send it again. And we can scroll down to the bottom here, and now we can see that our username is admin, right? So we can modify and we can play with these headers in line, and we can just send requests over and over again, right? This lets us just tinker and see what the responses are here. Now, I do believe that, yeah, we can actually even go to render here, and we can see what the page looks like on the backside. It will eventually, in theory, render the page. Well, it didn't. I don't know. Oh, there it goes. All right, so this is what the page actually looks like rendered. Right, so we can actually, just modify the requests here, and we can do it. If we go messing with this cookie, for instance, we're going to lose access to it, right? Like, but like you can see here, we can modify the entirety of this request. And if you think about it, that's actually a really powerful thing for us to be able to do to modify and to play with sessions as we go through them. So as I went through this in class, this took the lion's share of the 50 minutes I have, or 80 minutes I have with them. Just making sure they all had Kali working, making sure everyone went through, right? So like this is definitely a little bit shorter amount of time than went through it in class. But you know, I ask these questions at every one of these things, right? Did Burp Suite create the vulnerability? No. Burp Suite didn't create the vulnerability. Right? The vulnerability was there. The replay ability of that was there and present already. Burp just allowed us to exploit it. And then what assumptions did the server make? Well, the server made the assumption that if you have the token, you're the user. Really hard to protect against this. If you want some more things, look at EvilGenix attacks against Office 365, and you can see all of the work that Microsoft's doing in an attempt to basically stop this type of attack. It's very difficult to do without something like a YubiKey. And then why is replay dangerous? Well, you know, if I can get a hold of those session IDs or tokens, maybe I stole them out of your browser, right? Like a thing that scammers often do is, you know, you log into your bank, right? They'll black your screen out while they're doing some shady stuff to make it look like your account balances has changed, but they could steal that session cookie, take it to their browser, usually probably run it through a proxy, so it looks like they're also coming from the United States. They make their browser agent look like they're running the same browser. They put the session ID in, and boom, they're just logged into your bank account, right? Like that is a very dangerous type of attack here. But it's less relevant than it used to be, but it is still relevant. So looking ahead, the schedule on the syllabus is a lie. I'm working on getting it updated. I have not done it yet, but we're going to stay focused on web in this class. The syllabus took us all over the place, and I don't really like it. So we're going to change up the schedule and try to stay on web as long as we can. And next week, today actually, we're starting cross-site scripting. The students had to read chapters 9 and 10 of the book. The lab is up now, and then I asked them about CyberChef, and then I'll be out of town Thursday, so you'll only get a recorded lecture. But that's it. I hope everyone enjoyed this, and I will talk to you next time.